webinar speaker for today. Now, no one else understands dogs quite the way he does. He's an acclaimed author, a mentor, educator, and canine behaviorist. He's the only dog trainer to be endorsed by the SPCA. He's the official online dog trainer. He's a husband and a father of 2 children, 4 dogs, 2 cats, and I don't know how many chickens. And he's one of the loveliest guys you'll ever meet. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Doggy Dan. Welcome, Doggy Dan.
Thanks, Graham. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Yes, I am Doggy Dan. Welcome. Thank you for showing up and finding the time to join us on this free coaching session, during which we're going to cover off how to raise the perfect puppy and beyond, and basically avoid all of that stress and the frustration by understanding your puppy better. And we're also going to cover off how to stop and even prevent 3 of the most common behavioral issues. Now, the reason I say and beyond is because at the end of the day, it's all well and good to have a well-trained puppy up to 6 months or 8 months old, but if it all falls apart after that, if it falls apart at 10 months old or 18 months old, what's the point? So this coaching is aimed for all of you with young puppies, but also includes anyone with an older puppy or a young dog. So, what I'm going to do during this coaching is I'm going to cover off some of my best and most powerful training techniques to stop 3 of the most common behavioral issues. And then I'm going to show you my dog training and puppy training program, where you can go to get more help if you want it, because I know some of you are going to want loads more information, not just about these 3 problems or issues, but loads more. So how does all that sound? Does that sound good? Everybody happy with that? If you're happy, you can type yes in the box. Graham, does that sound good with you?
That sounds good, Dan. Yep, we're starting to see people saying hi. Yep, everyone's happy with that. Well, we've got
good. I can see all your comments. Yeah.
All over the world.
I was just going to.
Fantastic.
Yeah, also Linda from Sergeant Bluff in Iowa. We can see all these comments. Every comment, we can see them all coming through. It's just lovely. And I've made this slide up. This is your host, Graham Taylor-Warren. Anything you want to say, Graham, before we kind of kick it off?
I'm just a very passionate dog lover and probably your biggest fan. So that's all I need to say. Thanks, Dan. Carry on.
Cool. So my style, for those of you who know me, I like to keep things pretty relaxed and fun and interactive. So I want to make this as interactive as possible. So one of the things already you'll be able to see is there's a poll. Already we'll put this poll up, and you can basically you can just tell us what age your dog is, your puppy. So we'll get a bit of a feel for that. So on the right-hand side, there's a little poll there, and you should be able to just click on whether you've got a puppy who's under 4 months old, a puppy who's 4 to 8 months old, a puppy who's 8 months to a year old, or a dog who's sort of a year or a year and above. And that just gives us a bit of an idea of who's with us today. So I don't know, can you see that now? Is that coming up on the polls on that right-hand side where you've been chatting? Should just be able to check. And you can just select one of those and cast your vote. And that's just great fun to be able to get a feel for who's in this webinar, this coaching session today. Okay, let's get into it. Here's the deal. We've got about an hour together, and I'm going to give you everything I can in that hour to help you get to grips with these issues. So to kick off, we're going to have a look at biting and mouthing, what to do when you're seriously under attack, the most powerful way to stop it, why these attacks occur, and how you can prevent them in the first place. And also how to know if you have a serious puppy mouthing, biting problem. Then we're going to have a look at raising children and training puppies. There's so many similarities. If you're tired of sick and shouting and screaming at your child or your puppy, then you'll enjoy this. And I'm going to show you a very powerful principle that overlies raising children and training dogs, which will save you wasting your emotion. And then I'm going to touch on why so many perfectly behaved puppies seem to turn into nightmare dogs at around about 10 months of age, and how it's actually so easy to prevent that from happening. And then lastly, we're going to have a look at getting your puppy or dog to walk nicely on the leash. And I'm going to touch on why walking your puppy off leash and yet to heel is so much easier than many people think. I'm going to touch on 5 of the most common reasons people struggle to get their puppies or dogs to walk on the leash, how to turn that around, and the #1 reason that puppies and dogs are in trouble on the leash. And with each of these issues, I'm going to touch on some some of my best training techniques and tips, and I'm also going to touch on the key to stopping and preventing all these issues and avoiding all the stress and frustration in the first place, which is obviously this is the key to raising that perfect puppy. How does all that sound? Sounds good? You ready? Just having a look there. We've got the results come through. How old is your puppy? How old is your dog? So 45% of you have got a dog over a year old. That's great. That gives me an idea where we're at. We've got a quarter of people with very young, and about 18% and 40% with puppies between 4 months old and a year. So that's great, guys. Okay, so get settled. Hopefully your mobile phones are off. Give me your full attention. You're going to love this next hour. Grab a pen and paper and settle down, because the stuff that we're going to share here could absolutely change your life. If you're ready for it, this is a time for not just sharing some information, but you can start what could be an absolute transformation. This can transform your life. It's transformed mine, and I'm very passionate about it. Hopefully you can feel that energy and enthusiasm for what I do and what I love and what I'm so passionate about sharing. Okay, this is what's coming up, guys. We're almost through the introduction. Then we're going to a little bit about me and why I use this method, and then we're going to go through a very important stage. This is actually my passion in life, the difference between dog training and dog psychology. There is a huge difference, and you've got to get the grips with that big difference, because it's actually not the dog training which will transform your dog. It's the dog psychology. It's understanding that bit. Then we're going to have a look at preventing the biting, looking at the raising children and puppies, and the simplest way to walk your puppy off leash, and then the key. I'll just clarify what the key is to raising the perfect puppy at the end, before we have a look at some Q&A. And of course at the end I'm also going to show you where you can get a ton more information. So stay on at the end, because there's also a downloadable PDF of all the notes from this webinar. So that's going to be coming at the end. Somebody's also going to win 3 months of online coaching with me, which is worth well over $100. And you're all going to get be offered a very special offer. Hopefully that interests you. Okay. A little bit about me. Here's me with my little puppy Moses at the beach where we live. I moved from England 15 or 14 years ago. I was born in England, raised in England, moved to New Zealand, which is the other side of the world, and and this is where I live now. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. Not many people, lots of land and space, and we live by the beach. So this is where I spend probably most of my time when I'm not in the office or at home. It's either walking in the woods with the dogs or down by the beach. And it's a lot of fun. I love it. The dogs love it. And I'm passionate about dogs. I have 3 now. Well, I've just taken on board a 4th dog. I'm trialing at the minute. There's actually 5 on our property, and I've just seen the neighbour's little fluffy white dog running up the hill. She can be a bit of a barker, so I've seen her out the window, and I'm fingers crossed that she's not going to start barking, but that's the neighbour's dog. I just want to clarify. So, I've got 3, 4, you could say 5 dogs are on the property. And, as Graham, as you mentioned, I have a beautiful wife, 2 lovely children. We have a horse who my wife rides. We've got a cat called Bougie. I have Arbus. He's got a couple of funny names. We didn't name him, and I've got no control over him at all. I'm not a cat whisperer. We've got about 10 chickens, I think. So that's a little bit about me. Now, I guess a little bit more about this method is, as a professional dog trainer and what I do, it's really the best way to put it is I do one-on-one consultations where I go to people's homes, and most of the times I'm going to people's homes, it's because they've got a behavioural issue which is starting to go a bit pear-shaped. So usually dogs under 1 year old. I do work with more serious issues of older dogs, and I've worked with thousands of dogs over the years. It's the serious stuff, and my passion is now to share the knowledge that I have with anybody who is interested. A little bit about this method. I guess the first thing is, I've studied so many different methods out there, and I really wanted to choose one which was just the most powerful and amazing method of all. And when I was studying them, what I sort of found was there's 2 sort of camps. There's those people who are very much into positive reinforcement, which I love. I think that's great, positively reinforcing your dog and using food and treats. I think I've got no problem with that, so long as it doesn't end up bribing your dog. And that's what I was concerned about. There's a lot of methods which just seem to be bribing the dog, so I was very wary of that. And then there was a lot of people who are still using a lot of muscles to outpower the dog, and dominate the dog, a lot of fear and force and aggression. I didn't want that either. So I wanted a method where the dog was sort of choosing to obey and listen, and so you could train them because they chose to listen to you. That was the key bit. And I thought, is there a simple way to this all? And I studied so many methods over the years, books, DVDs, and I've come to realize that absolutely yes, there was a very, very powerful way of training your young puppy to avoid all these problems, avoid all that stress. And it's all about winning their mind first, and then you can train the body. So I've been fine-tuning it over the years, and this is my big challenge. Little Inca, I got her when she was a puppy, and down that left-hand side there you can see this was my ultimate test. Fearful, hyperactive, growling, barking at everything, running away on the walk. She was scared of people, attention-seeking machine. She was unbelievable. The bottom line is I have worked with a tricky dog, and I know this method works because she's now the most amazing. There was a time when I got her and I thought, oh, why has the universe given me this difficult dog? People are going to laugh at me and think Doggy Dan doesn't know what he's doing. He can't even train his own dog. But I knew she was a very tricky dog to start with, and yet now you would never know it. So with some of the most tricky dogs, this method absolutely works. Okay, let's keep rocking through it. I guess one thing I just wanted to say is, yeah, I don't want to keep this to myself anymore, and that's probably my key driving force for doing all of this today. It's to share the knowledge that I have with anyone who's interested. So thank you all for turning up. Right, we're on to the dog training and dog psychology. There's a huge difference, and it's important we understand it because, like I said before, it's not the dog training that's going to turn your puppy or your dog into an amazing dog. It's actually the dog psychology part, and so this is the way I see it. You can't think like a bird or a fish and apply that to your dog. You can't apply bird psychology, fish psychology. You would never do that. However, you also can't apply human psychology to your dog. And yet, it's crazy, but that's what we tend to do. A lot of the time we apply human psychology to our dogs and it doesn't work. And this is why. Your dog is 99.8% the DNA of a wolf. And if you just look at the wolf pack, this is where they've evolved from. This is the real basic stuff. You'll already know this, but it's important just to cover off these simple bits because then it'll make sense. In the wild, there's an alpha male and an alpha female in the pack, and the most important bit is they're in charge. They make all the big decisions. The dogs down in the pack might moan and groan about who's in charge, but they know the pack leaders make all the big decisions above the line. There we go, at the top. Now, what we need is the humans in the household, whether there's one human or 12 humans, it doesn't matter, and we want the dogs down below. Leaders and followers. The leaders make the decisions. But that's how it tends to be. In most people's houses, on the right-hand side, we've got the dog in charge and the people at the bottom. And the reason that happens is because we aren't born to think like a dog. We don't understand why the dog would think that they're in charge, what things are really important to a dog. And getting this bit right is what I call the dog psychology part. It's the dog, it's the becoming the pack leader. That's how I to become the pack leader. And it's got nothing to do with screaming or shouting or raising your voice. You have to know how to become that pack leader. And that is what I call the foundation. So this foundation is the psychology part. We've got to get that bit right. And just to give you an idea of how that fits in with everything else, if you think of that psychology part as your foundation, becoming the pack leader, the other stuff is consistency. You've got to be consistent. You've got to stick with everything that we're going to go through. The energy is the way you do everything. These are what I call my 3 pillars of success. There's the second one, energy, and the third one is training, and that's the bit which everybody focuses on, dog trainers included. People tend to really focus on training your dog. However, when you're training a puppy or a dog and you're not the pack leader, it all starts to fall apart as the dog gets older and challenges you more. So whether you've got a young puppy, become that pack leader is a real key, and all this training that we're going to go through will have so much more impact. So I'm going to go through a lot of training today. I'm also going to keep touching on why you've got to be that pack leader and how it ties in with everything. And of course, when you get all of it right, then you get the results. So hopefully that gives you an idea of the dog training and dog psychology part of everything. Okay, let's keep moving on here. So, mouthing and biting. Another little question I've got is, basically you should see there's another question come up about mouthing and biting, just to get an idea of how many of you have have got real issues with mouthing and biting, if you can just fill that little poll in. Are you struggling with mouthing and biting now? You can reply yes, absolutely, sort of, or no, not really, not at all. If you just fill that in, and I'll keep going, we'll have a little look on that. Okay, what to do when you're seriously under attack from your puppy, and the most powerful way to stop it. I mean, it doesn't matter how old your puppy is. You know, they've got very, very sharp teeth. In fact, the little baby teeth are way, way sharper than the adult teeth. And so, you know, when you're being attacked by a 10-week-old little bundle of fluff, it can be absolutely terrorizing, especially if they're on a mission. So here we go, how to stop it. 3 simple steps. The first step is to redirect your puppy. The key thing here is that you're not trying to stop the mouthing as much as redirect them onto something else. So you're saying to your puppy, hey, chew this, chew that, chew a ball or rope or toy or something like that, rather than just saying, no, you're not allowed to chew me at all. That's what I'd call the first stage. It's about setting your puppy up to win. Very, very important. Second step is staying calm and repeating that process. You do have to repeat it several times often, you know, 2, 3, 4 times before your puppy will realize that you mean it. And the key bit I'd say here, repeating it is important, but also staying calm. And usually staying calm means don't say anything. Almost stay silent and just calmly move your puppy onto something once, twice, 3 times. Now, I've just got the results coming through. Yes, absolutely, we're struggling with mouthing and biting right now. 1/4 of you are struggling. 50% of you, I've sort of got a bit of an issue with it, and 25% of you, or 20%, are all good. So good, that gives me a good idea that 25% of you, this really applies. One thing I would say regarding the mouthing and biting is try different textured objects. Don't just try the same thing that you're moving your puppy onto the whole time, because they'll love something and they might not enjoy chewing something else. So stay calm and repeat. I'll put down there, do you usually respond or just react? Because when you react, that's usually just the screaming and shouting and tapping the dog on the nose, and that sort of stuff may seem to work for a wee while, but long term it generally doesn't. It can wind your puppy up and it gets worse. Third step is very simple. Time out. That's the bit which is usually missing. And with timeout, again, it's not just what you do, it's not just putting them in timeout, it's the way you do it. And again, the calmer you're able to put your puppy into timeout, the more powerful it will be. So stay silent. After a cup puppy, walk them into timeout. And your puppy will get it. It may take a little while for them to calm down, and when they're quiet, you can let them out. Now, there is a catch to all this, which means this approach really only works if you've got this bit in place. And it's becoming the pack leader. You've got to be the pack leader. Your puppy has to view you as the one in charge. If you haven't got that foundation in place, then all of that training is not really going to have the desired impact.
Dan, just a quick question there.
Yeah.
You're saying that when you're the pack leader, then you get less of the mouthing and the biting?
That's right. Absolutely. Because
Rochelle just put a little comment in there saying that the mouthing and biting is mainly with the children, but she seems to not do it with her. So can the children become the pack leaders?
Absolutely, they can. And the things to focus on is the more that Rochelle becomes the pack leader, the more your puppy will respond to the things that Rochelle's doing. So the way it sort of works is this: for Rochelle, if you're totally the pack leader and your puppy is mouthing and biting the children, and you walk over there, take puppy by the collar, move him away once, twice, 3 times. If he carries on doing it, put him in timeout. Then the puppy will respect you, Rochelle, and the puppy will understand that you are pretty much saying, don't bite the children. And that's the power of this method, because it's almost like the pack leader makes all the rules. So Rochelle, if the puppy respects you, you won't have any more problem. Where it all goes pear-shaped and goes wrong is if the puppy doesn't respect you, Rochelle, because as the puppy grows up, the puppy will start challenging you, and then when you're trying to say to the puppy, don't bite the children, the puppy starts having a go at you as well. So hopefully that makes sense. The children, if they know how to be the pack leader, can also, have that influence over the dog and put the puppy in timeout. But absolutely, Rochelle, as a parent, you can step in and show the puppy how to behave. Okay, Let's have a little look. Why does my puppy attack me? So there's a whole load of training tips. I'm going to try and give you as much as I can. I've got to fly through this because time is ticking by, but obviously I'm going to give you a whole lot, place where you can get a whole lot more information later on. First thing to point out is mouthing puppies. It's perfectly normal, but we've got to have a way of dealing with it so it doesn't sort of escalate. Why does my puppy attack me? Couple of things. First of all, it often happens when your puppy has too much energy. For example, when you've just fed them, when they've just maybe woken up in the morning, early morning, you've given them a feed and they're charging round. So draining that energy is a very simple way of trying to deflect some of the problem. Another thing, the way you're telling them off. If we all hate the finger wag. I hate being told off. Sometimes I deserve it, but the way you tell your puppy off is key. And so if you're just shouting and tapping your dog on the nose, and when your puppy mouths you, you're shouting, no, no bite, no bite, and it all just adds energy and winds your puppy up a little bit. So using that method that we just touched on before is far more powerful. Another reason is your puppy doesn't have enough chew toys or the right textured chew toys. I touched on it before. I mean, here's 6 different textures. I mean, you got the stick up there. I do give puppies and dogs sticks. I mean, that's what they chew in the wild. Some people may say it's a bit dangerous and they could choke on them, but you can choke on anything at the end of the day. So you've got the fluffy toy, the plastic. That piece of piping there is very hard, and bigger dogs will absolutely love that sort of thing. And that fluffy animal in the top right-hand corner. The point is this: if your puppy wants to chew your clothes because they've got tassels and you've got a tassely skirt or something on, it's no good giving them a piece of wood. And likewise, if your puppy's wanting to chew and mouth something like your slipper, it's no good giving them a hard piece of piping. They're probably wanting something softer and more dampened, and got a knot in it is absolutely brilliant sometimes because the little puppy teeth can sink into it. Okay, another reason why your puppy may be attacking you is all that screaming and shouting. It winds the puppy up, it adds energy to the situation, they get excited, it all becomes one big game and they think it's hilarious. And lastly, your dog is bored. If your dog is bored, they are going to start doing things just to try and get attention. So try and step in early, keep your dog entertained, and yeah, again, it sort of ties in with tiring them out a little bit. There's a couple of ideas as to what could well be going on. But the number one reason I would say that puppies and dogs start to mouth, and this is the reason why you sort of can't stop it, is this. And it's all to do with even young puppies testing that pack leader. It's in their nature, it's in their DNA that they will challenge and see how you respond. And this is where the more you can show your dog or puppy that you're the pack leader, the less they will challenge you. And so it's a very important concept to understand that this mouthing and challenging is normal. And if you understand how to show your puppy, and if you've been giving your puppy the message the whole time that you're in charge, you will be attacked far less. I worked with a little husky who the lady basically couldn't brush this husky, and what happened when she brushed the husky was every time she tried to brush him, he would just turn around and bite her. He would snap at her. He didn't like her doing it. He wouldn't have it. And so I went round to work with her, and I put in place my my little method for becoming the pack leader, which is very simple, and started to brush him a little bit later on in the session, and he was absolutely fine. I mean, I kept waiting for him to turn around and snap at me, but he didn't. He was absolutely fine. So it was quite bizarre. I thought, okay, puppy's fine with me brushing him. So the lady picked the brush up and said, oh, can I have a go? And as soon as she brushed him, he started to bite her. And you start to realize it's a respect thing. If the puppy respects you, and they will challenge you less, they will tell you off less, they'll let you do things that they won't let other people do. And I've had that with being able to cut dogs or puppies' nails, put a leash on them, put them into timeout without being bitten and mouthed. It's all about respect. Okay, so how to stop these? The problem is basically, I'd say, is 2 steps. How to prevent it in the first place. First of all, you must become that pack leader, and we're going to touch on how you can become that a little bit later on, and then you just put in place the 3 training steps. Stay calm, very quietly, and repeat. So you redirect them, you put them into timeout, and yeah. Or I should say you redirect them, redirect them, do it again, repeat it a few times, and then you put them into timeout. How do you know if you've got a problem? Some of you will probably think, we've got a serious problem. You've no idea how bad it is. and I know what it's like. I've seen some absolutely crazy little puppies and crazy dogs. The first thing is this. First, put the method in place. You have to become the pack leader before you'll have any idea whether you've really got a problem. 99% of puppies and dogs just need to be understood. And it breaks my heart, to be honest, because I know how many of you are thinking, you've no idea, my dog's evil, my dog's got, my dog's Jekyll and Hyde. But it's about understanding why they're doing it, and it's all to do with them thinking they're in charge. They're thinking that they should be challenging you, that they should be allowed to do what they want. So if you've got a puppy who's challenging, and running straight out of timeout, then yep, you need to be that pack leader. If you've got a puppy who's really biting hard, then yeah, it's a bit of an issue. Small children, they need to be protected. The other thing is check your energy. Stay very calm. And if you've got a puppy who's over 16 weeks of age, then really you want to be stopping that mouthing pretty much immediately. Don't give your puppy many chances to mouth. You put them straight in timeout, I would. Once they're past 16 weeks, it should really be sort of hitting it on the head and saying, no, no biting, no mouthing at all. But the most important thing is become that pack leader first, and then see if you've got a problem, because most of you won't. How does that all sound? Good. I can hear you all, I think. Yep. Moving on to the next section. There's another poll coming up, another poll question for you guys, all about training puppies and raising children. Some of the question is basically, have you ever thought there were similarities? So you can either say yes, yes, absolutely, or no, not really at all, or kind of, yeah, I guess there are some similarities. I mean, I've always wondered about it, and over the last 5 years, I've spent a lot of time, now that I've got 2 children of my own who are aged 3 and 4, spent a lot of time thinking about different training methods with children and dogs, about using fear and aggression as your main tools, about shouting and screaming and how to avoid it, about slowly losing the respect of your children and the dogs, about maybe blaming circumstances, blaming the child, blaming the puppy, and resorting to bribery. And now I'm starting to realize there are so many similarities, including that it's what we do that really matters and how we behave. And so that is why I've actually written a book. Sorry, I should have showed you this slide a little bit earlier, but this is the things which basically I realized over time, and many, many more things, that there are a lot of similarities that happen, the things that go wrong with raising children and raising puppies. And that's why I wrote this book, which is called What the Dogs Taught Me About Being a Parent. And I wish I could do everything in the book. The theory is absolutely fantastic, and it's a beautiful method of raising children and training dogs. And I do regularly try and put it back into place. I picked the book up the other day and turned to the back cover and thought, my gosh, I need to read this again. As you can imagine, with 3, 4, 5 dogs and 10 chickens and a horse and a wife and 2 children, things can get pretty chaotic. If you think it's all plain sailing for me, then absolutely not. It gets pretty stressful around here as well as it probably does at your place. Okay, so if you're tired of screaming and shouting, then let's have a quick look at a very calm and gentle approach. And this is the simple approach. The first thing is that it's about being calm. I know this is easier said than done, but being calm is very powerful, and great habits take time, and they are worth creating. And so I do a lot of sort of meditating, just trying to calm myself, exercising, all of these things which help me stay calm when I'm working around the children, working around the puppies. Second stage is about being consistent. Excellence is what you do every day, and with consistency, it's the way you're working with your puppy. It's got to be consistent in terms of not just you doing it, but your partner, everybody who comes and visits, and also different situations. It's no good allowing your puppy to be breaking all the rules here, but not over here, or at least that does start to confuse things. So be calm, be consistent, and then the third thing is following through with some consequences. Training your puppy and your children is about them learning the consequences, and it's not about screaming and shouting at your kids or the puppies. It's about showing them, guys, if you spit food at the table, you will have to sit in the corner for a minute. If you throw food, all these things, same as your puppy. It's about consequences. But so often we don't put consequences in place. We don't use timeout, and then we get really angry and frustrated, and we flick from being calm and kind of walked over to a bit of a rage. So a good example, I still remember this little Jack Russell little story. The owners were struggling because the Jack Russell was chewing the power point cables, where the power comes out the wall. He was chewing all the cables, and he was going to blow himself up. And so I walked up to him when he was doing it and put him in timeout. Next few minutes later, he came back out, started chewing the cables. So they looked at me and smiled and kind of said, you see, never gives up. So I took him, put him in timeout. The third time he came out of timeout, he walked over to the power cable and he's just about to start chewing it, and I could see them smiling as if to say, you see, he never gives up. And his little head cocked on its side, looked at me, looked back at the cable, looked back at me, and he walked away. It was fantastic. You just see that kind of connection happening, and that's, in terms of training, that's how it works. Does that make sense? You still with us, guys? Everybody there?
Yes,
just
what you're saying, Dan, is basically follow through. So if you set a series of consequences in action, is just be consistent and make sure that you follow through with each one, and that the result or the punishment is always going to be there. It's always going to be the same.
Yeah, that's right. It is about being calm as you do it, putting them in timeout calmly. It's about being consistent. You have to be consistent even when you can't be bothered. And consequences, timeout is a very powerful consequence. You know, dogs hate it, but it doesn't hurt them. It doesn't damage their relationship with you. You're not hitting them or smacking them. You're not screaming. You're not getting angry. You know, I've got a whole chapter on the use of timeout in my book, because it's such a wonderful thing when it's done well. I'm not saying I do it perfectly every time, but it's very powerful when it's done well. And yeah. And the other thing about putting this in place is, the more you are the pack leader in your puppy's eyes, the more they will respect you, and they'll respect your rules. They'll respect your timeouts. It's a bit like the king and the queen. They make the rules, and the rest of everybody else accepts those rules, sort of thing. But if you're not the pack leader in your puppy's mind or your dog's mind, they don't accept you putting them in timeout. It's a bit like children. If they put their parents in timeout because they didn't serve them chocolate for breakfast, parents won't accept that, and so they, you end up with this head-to-head battle. That's the problem. So that's where it comes from. I just got to touch on the poll. We got the results back. 89% of you have thought that there were similarities between raising children and training puppies. So yeah, the more I think about it, the more I realize it's almost all the same, to be honest. When you boil it down on a superficial level, on the surface level, it might not look like the similarities, but when you really come down to it, the two big things which are so important and so similar is, one is how to gain the respect of your children and your puppies without beating your chest and screaming and shouting. And the second bit, which is so important, is that it's not about your puppy, it's not about your child, it's not about them blaming them and them doing it wrong. It's about what you can actually change within yourself. So that's where I'm coming from. Anyway, better keep moving through. Moving ahead. One very powerful principle to saving your emotional energy, because it's so easy to get your energy drained by your puppy, drained by your children. They drain you, and this is a simple principle which, it's wonderful, and I'm still learning it. But it's simply this: that when you're engaging with your puppy or your children or any other adults, to be honest, don't add fuel to the fire. If they're in a negative state, don't waste your energy, because they'll just get more fired up in that state. It's probably why we use the word fired up. For example, if you've got somebody who's angry and you keep just talking to them and you just keep angering them. If you've got a child and they're in a bit of a silly mood, and you just keep adding more energy and talking to them and trying to calm them down by talking and adding energy to them, they'll just get worse. So the key bit is, you've got to recognize when your puppy is in a mouthy, bitey, silly state, because these are all the different, there's lots of different emotional states. And if your puppy is in a overexcited state, or an aggressive state, or or what's another state, aggressive or excited or being silly or being naughty, you've got to first, the key bit, if they're in a negative state, you've got to learn how to calm them down. And one technique, of course, is to put them in timeout. Second technique is maybe to put them on a small lead and walk them around very calmly. If they're biting the lead, again, you might think, well, you know what, I'm going to put them in timeout. The point is this: don't try and demonstrate or talk to your child, and just if they're getting worse, because that's what's happening. And I used to have this done to me as a child. I know I'd be in a bit of a bad mood, and I think my mum used to say, what's the matter? What do you want this? And I'd say no, and they'd say, do you want this? No. And what I really needed was just to be left alone to calm down, and that's the most important thing. Don't waste your energy. First of all, get your puppy or your child to calm down, and then you can move on from that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but it makes total sense. Thanks, Dan. Yeah, we're with you. Let's keep going.
Good. Okay, so why do so many puppies become trouble at around 10 months old? I think this is well, it might be pretty obvious to you. It's simply this. Your 1-year-old puppy is actually like a 14-year-old child. I guess it's not obvious because we always say that, puppies and dogs, it's 7 years to 1 year. But the key bit is this. The first year actually counts double. I guess that's where not a lot of people get that the first year of your puppy's or dog's life is like 14 years. So when you've got a 10-month-old puppy or dog challenging you, that's because your dog is heading towards being a teenager. And just in the same way that children challenge their parents as they get older, and if you've established that trust and that love and that respect when they're young, then it follows through. But if you haven't really got it right at an early age, then you do end up in a bit of trouble. So, so many perfectly behaved puppies who are great at 3 months old, 4 months old, and 6, 8 months old, at 10 months old through to 18 months old. That's probably where 50% of my work comes from. They're right at the big puppies turning into young adults, and it really goes pear-shaped because they really start challenging. I guess the other thing is just to realize if you've got say a 4-month-old puppy, it does mean that they're actually only like a 4-year-old. So when it comes to things like toilet training, leash walking, command training, just recognize how young they really are, and take it easy on them. So I guess this bit, winning your puppy's respect when they're still young, that is one of the ways that you can avoid so much stress and frustration by understanding that if you can become the pack leader, a lot of these issues that we're covering off won't actually ever develop. Well, good. Let's keep ticking along. Getting your puppy or dog to walk nicely on the leash. I've put here, it's simpler than you know when you know how, as with all things. So there's another poll coming up. Does your puppy walk well on the leash? Or does your dog walk well on the leash? There's a yes, there's a sometimes, and there's a no. If you just tick one of those boxes on the right-hand side, and we'll see what we're dealing with. Okay. Why walking your puppy off leash and yet to heel is so much easier than people think? I guess if I wanted to summarize this, it's basically if you walk your puppy off leash and you motivate them, and I'm going to talk about motivating them with some food, they're going to be happy as Larry to follow you. I mean, imagine if you had a string of sausages, in your hand. Of course the puppy's going to follow you. Whereas if you've got no food on you and you put a rope around your dog's neck and just yank them and try and get them to follow, of course they're not going to walk very nicely. So in a way, that's it in a nutshell. So I'm just going to summarize here a very simple technique, simple approach to getting your puppy to walk off leash. And if you've got an 18-month-old dog, you can still practice this. You can have an 18-month-old dog, and you can be at the park, you use some treats, and you put them in your hand. I'll go through it here. So there's no leash on your dog, they're running around at the park, or you could have a 10-week-old puppy and you're in your front room. You hold the food by your dog's nose. Again, you're at the park or in your front room. You pat your thigh and you say, walk, walk, or heel. And you only walk 5 yards if you've got a young puppy. They follow you, and you might walk 15 yards if you've got a bigger dog. And then you reward your dog. You say, good dog. And that's it. You do that again and again. That's the training side of things. And then you fade the food out. Real simple. You make the food smaller or only give it every second time. And that's how you can have an amazing little puppy walking by your side, and you don't push it too hard because that'll backfire on you. So just very simple approach there. Here's some reasons why, probably 5 of the most common reasons people struggle to get the dogs to walk on the leash and how to turn the situation around. Firstly, your dog's desire to explore needs to be satisfied. So dogs do have some of them have a huge desire to sniff and smell. You've got to let them do that. You can't just try and block that completely. That's not fair. So let them have a bit of a run, a play, a sniff, and then get them to do some leash work. And inside my, I'll show you later, but one of the videos I've got inside my dog training site is all about the social and the structured walk, and explaining there's 2 types of walk. One's structured, one's social, and you need to flip between the 2. Anyway, that's getting into something we don't want to get into right now. Second reason is if your puppy is too excited. If you've got your dog really excited as you're going for a walk, then you'll end up with a very excited dog as you leave the house. More of that, walkies, walkies, come on, look, he gets so excited as he charges through the door. It'll get worse and worse. So don't get your dog excited. Calm down and wait for your puppy to calm down before you put the lead on. Walk them calmly around the house before you go out that front door. The third reason is that your dog really doesn't have an understanding of what you want. You're shouting the word walk or heel, and your puppy or dog knows they're going to get the lead pulled, but they don't really know what you want them to do. And that's why that exercise that we covered off before is so powerful. So use that method of using a bit of food, no leash on your dog, just so that they understand when you pat your thigh or say the word walk or heel, they know exactly where you want them to be. Fourth reason, you're asking your puppy too much of a young puppy. Like I said, a 4-month-old puppy, they don't have much a big attention span. I mean, 10-week-old puppies, you might only be walking them 5 yards before you give them a break, or 3 yards, 4, 5, 6 yards, and then you've got to give them a break. They can't go very far. They're just like a young child. You can't sit a 4-year-old child down and get them to do 20 minutes of homework. They'll never do it. Too much, too soon. Set your puppy up to win. The fifth thing is the leash on your puppy is actually stressing them out. So you can see here, this leash is a bit too big. Puppy's trying to chew it off. But you could almost use a little thread or a string. You don't need something really chunky and heavy to get your puppy to walk on the leash, especially if you train them to walk off leash first. You pat your thigh, you say walk, and whether they've got a little piece of thread attached to them or not shouldn't really matter. But put that leash on. The other thing is to put the leash on when you're feeding them. Just clip the lead on, leave it on the ground, and use a very, very thin, light leash so they enjoy it. Okay. The number one reason, though, that I'd say most puppies and dogs are in trouble on the leash is simply this, and the solution is that the pack leader leads and the rest follow. Especially with older dogs. As your puppy and your dog get older, they will totally understand that the pack leader leads, and so if they think they're sort of in charge inside the home, then you're really going to struggle to get them to walk behind you when you leave the house, when you leave the home. If you think of a pack of wolves where your dog's evolved from, they don't wander off on their own doing their own thing. So going for a hunt or walking, they wait till the pack leader stand up, the pack leader leads, and the rest follow. So you've got to get that bit right first. I remember I worked with a lovely lady who had a was it a Tibetan Terrier or a Tibetan Spaniel, and she couldn't get this dog to walk on the leash anyway. I'd walked into the house as I always do and immediately started to put in practice into place my dog training method of becoming the pack leader, and when it came to trying to walk this dog on the leash, I put the lead on and the dog walked absolutely perfectly in and around the house and then out the front door and down the street. So we came back in again. I gave the lead to the lady, kind of looking at her going, well, I can't see the problem. Show me what's going on. And as soon as she picked up the lead, the dog started pulling. And as soon as she handed it back to me, the puppy walked on the leash. And I've since seen this hundreds and hundreds of times. So many dogs know perfectly well how to walk on the leash and how to walk behind you. However, if they think that they're the pack leader, then they will try and challenge you and push to the front. So, yeah. Becoming the pack leader, as always, is crucial to your training. It's the one thing that will make all your training so much easier, understanding that there are leaders and there are followers. And there's a lot of you who have done so much training, but that training doesn't really stand for anything unless you've got that foundation in place and unless you become the pack leader. This is what happens when if you don't do it and your dogs think they're in charge. It's classic, brilliant photo. Love that photo. But I wouldn't want to own those dogs and try and take them for a walk. Okay, so look, let's have a look at the time, how we're doing. Have we got a time for a question, G? You got any questions there before we've pretty much covered off? Yeah.
Dan, sorry, we've been having a bit of a problem with the polls. Some people not being able to see them.
Oh.
And I think there's just a glitch in the system somewhere with that.
Okay. Does your puppy walk well on the leash?
But I think let's open it up quickly and let's see if anyone's having a problem with walking off leash, and see if we can get a couple of questions in. Yeah. So just fire those away right now, guys.
Yeah.
I will write a quick note for everyone.
Do you see the? Da, da, da. Yeah, a lot of questions there about the walking on, about the poles, not so many on the pulling on the leash. Look, pulling on the leash is it is one of those things where you do need a little bit of training. You've got to put that training in place. Like I say, and there's hundreds and hundreds of different methods and tricks and ways of trying to train your dog to stop pulling. But what I'd suggest is far more powerful than doing more training is understanding how to be the pack leader. And that's sort of what we're going to touch on now, because what I actually want to do, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to stop sharing. You're actually going to get a view of me in a second, I think. So here I am. Hello there. Can you all see me? I think you all can. And I'm going to flick to my dog training website, which, you know, at the very beginning, can you all see that, guys? You see my membership site?
Dan, before we go there, we do have a quick
Yeah.
a quick question, which is my 11
Oh, yeah,
month.
cool.
Yep. Red Heeler likes to hold his leash, so I give him a stick to carry in his mouth. Now, that's quite interesting. You've got a very clever little solution for that, haven't you?
Yeah. I mean, look, your 11-month-old Heeler likes to hold his leash. I would say that your 11-month-old Heeler is very, very smart dog, and he's saying, I like to lead, and I like to hold the lead, because the dogs know what the lead is. They know it's the controlling device. So he says, I like to carry the lead in his mouth. And you've found a very good solution, which is put a stick in his mouth. Great. And if that works, brilliant. I'm more than happy with that. For some of you, you'll have a more tenacious dog who keeps biting the lead and won't want to carry a stick. They'll bite the lead. What you can actually do is put a little chain, not around your dog's neck. I'm not saying put a choke chain around your neck, but I'm saying clip a chain onto your soft collar and have that as the first, say, foot or foot and a half of your lead, so that when your puppy goes to bite the lead, they'll suddenly stop and go, oh, maybe not. I don't like that. So that's one other little tip there for you. Okay, now at the start of this coaching session, I promised that if you stayed on till the end, I'd go through my training program where you can get hold of a ton more awesome information about mouthing, this calm and gentle method, including becoming the pack leader. I can see some of you down there are asking this question, of course, how do I become the pack leader? Stop going on about it, sort of thing. Tell me how to do it. And look, I'm more than happy to share that with you. There's also inside this site is training your puppy to walk on the leash, and loads of other behavioral issues. And I'll just do a little tour of the site, because this is my passion. You know, and Graham and I have been building this for about 5 years now. And this is the sort of the main page. And what it is, it's an absolute complete dog training solution. So here I've talked about being the pack leader. Become the pack leader. There's 5 golden rules for being the pack leader. And if you come on the site, you'll watch this video, which basically explains you must become the pack leader first. And I'll just jump to that page where you've got to become the pack leader. So this is there's 5 rules. And if you click on that one, you come to here. Golden rule number 1: control the food. And you'll see, you know, these are comprehensive videos. These are actually live. This isn't a live consultation. The first video isn't. It's 9 minutes long of me explaining the first rule in detail. And then this is a live consultation here of me working with the little dog. And as you'll see, there's 4, 5, whatever, 6 videos and an audio there just for that first rule, which, as you can see, is all about controlling the food. And I don't think I've ever met anybody who fully understood how to properly be the pack leader by controlling that food in every sense of the word. So you put those 5 rules in place, and you will become that pack leader, and so many of the issues will disappear. And if you've got a puppy, then you won't experience half the issues. You'll have such a well-trained dog without doing that much more training. However, of course, training is important. So this is the next section, puppy training. And if you come down here, there's loads of things on general health, getting started, meeting the world. So that's about socializing, and then behavioral issues. So if you've got a behavioral issue, toilet training, submissive urination, you just come here, click on any of these: barking, chewing, mouthing and biting, jumping up, stealing, crying when left, and digging. All of those things are covered off. Basic commands, recall, sit down, stay. So all of these are videos. If you go to any of those, and this is kind of one of the things I've loved doing over the last year or two, is Project Moses. Basically, I got a little 8-week-old puppy, and I made videos of him as I raised them up. So introducing Project Moses, puppies crying at night, crate training Moses, a short separation, and at 9 weeks old, I made another load of videos, redirecting chewing, stopping a puppy from chewing the mop. And I've done it all the way through, right through to 8 months old. Vacuuming inside my car. That's right, Moses, getting used to me vacuuming the car. So look, here's another part of the website. Oh, just jumping around a bit too much here, sorry. So that's puppy training. The other part of the website is dog problems. If you've got an older dog, you know, you can come to here. Dog aggression. Dogs who are aggressive to people, aggressive to other animals, aggressive to objects. And I'll just click on one of these. Let's have a look. Dog aggression, case study cruise. So I'll just load this up now. It'll take a couple of seconds just to load up there, just because we're using the webinar and we're using, and I'm trying to load this at the same time. But you know, these are consultations where I've worked with people and their dogs, and they've all been recorded. And yeah, there's about 30 hours of video footage inside the site in total. And then there's a whole section on dog training, safety and families, training your dog to fetch dog packs. And the forum is basically for people who become a member. You can ask me questions, and you can see here there's hundreds and hundreds of questions, and I answer them all personally. And so that's what's involved. That's the site there. So when you visit the site, I guarantee you'll be absolutely you'll be blown away with the content, because it covers off, you know, all those dog behavioral issues. You've got, I think, 300 videos in total, and so there's a lot of good stuff there. Now, if you're getting pretty excited, then good, you should be, because you're going to absolutely love it. And I'm going to make it even better now, because what I've done is I've made it so that you can actually experience the entire site for just $1. So you get into this site, you can trial it for $1 for 3 days, and you may be wondering why I've done that. And it's quite simple. Basically, I want you to be absolutely happy and love the site before you decide whether you'd like to stay on or not. So it's $1 to check out this site, all the puppy training, how to be the pack leader, and you can have a look at that. And then if you want to stay on, it's $37 for a month's access. And during the 3-day trial, you can cancel at any time. So if you don't want to pay, you don't have to. Now, I've actually got a special deal. I said I'd give you a special deal at the very beginning for all of you who stayed on till the end. So whereas it's normally $37 US a month, let me get this right, I'm going to give you, yeah, it's a 20% discount. So there's 20% discount off the usual monthly price. That means there's still the $1 trial, so you can go in, have a look at the whole thing, and then I've decided I wanted to make it really cheap, an absolute no-brainer for you guys, $29.60 to stay on for a whole month. So hopefully it sounds absolutely brilliant to you guys, and yeah, you're going to love it. Now, we do have to announce a winner, so hopefully, Graham, I'm not sure if you've managed to pull a winner out of the people who have attended today, but we're going to basically go through the winner.
Just before we do that, I just would like people to see if they can find the pop-ins tab on the right-hand side, and if you go into the pop-ins tab, you will see that special offer for the 20% off. People can just go in there, and there's a big yellow button. You can click on that, and that will take you to a new page where you can have a look at the offer.
Brilliant.
Okay. We will have, there's a 48-hour countdown timer on that, so you do have 2 days to check it out, make sure this is something for you, and if you guys want to join after that, fantastic, we'll see you in the forum straight after that.
Great. Let me jump back now whilst Graham is pulling the winner out of the hat. I think you can see me again there. Let's just go back. So there's me live, or a little bit delayed possibly. And let me just get back to the slideshow. Here we go. Become the pack leader. I love this slide. I like ending up with this slide. Basically, you know, if you had a house, think of it like this. If you had a house and it was falling down because the foundations were all damaged, what would you think if I said to you, hey, I can get you some new paint, I can repaint that house, and I can put some new glass in it for you. You'd think I was crazy, because I wouldn't be treating the cause of the problem. And if I knew you have a problem with your house, you've really got to sort out the cause of the problem and get that foundation sorted. And that's like that with your puppy. You've got to sort out the foundation of the problem and the cause of the problem with your puppy or your dog's problems, and that's becoming the pack leader. So get that bit. Oh, there's a little cat in the background. I can hear your lovely little cat, Graham. Say hi to your cat. So yeah, that's what's all included. How to stop 34 most common problems. Complete puppy training program from 8 weeks of age. How to become the pack leader. Lots of easy to follow videos. And that amazing offer, which you should all be able to see. And hopefully, as soon as we've announced the winner, you'll know whether you've won or not. And if you don't worry, if you haven't won the 3 months free access, it doesn't matter, because it's only $1 to check it all out anyway. Okay, Graham, how are you doing with the?
Yep, Dan, we just put the list of names into the app that generates a random name, and I'm just going to display the name now.
Wonderful. Is that on the chat box?
That'll be, yeah. So give me a sec. So there it is.
So the winner of the three.
Our winner is Maxine.
Maxine, excellent. Well done, Maxine. So we'll have your email address, and we'll just be able to send you a password to the site, and you'll have access for 3 months to that site. So congratulations to you. Very, very good. Now, when you before we jump to some more questions, actually, let me just go back. I'm going to flip back very quickly just to the site, because what I want to show you is if you click on that box, I want to show you what will happen if you click on the offer. Let me show you now. So I'll go back to live on the web. If we just go to live on the web here. So if you click on where the pop-in is, if you're keen to move ahead and get into the site and get started today, the webinar attendees only special offer, get 20% off right now, add to cart. If you click on this little button here, add to cart at the bottom, this is the page it'll take you to. Doggy Dan, the online dog trainer, webinar attendees exclusive offer. And that's where, yep, 20% discount on this page right now, but only for the next 48 hours. So, you can play the video, but you've already had a look inside the site. There's some testimonials, loads of stuff, loads of information about what you'll be getting. But you've actually seen inside the site. So what I'd suggest is just get into it. It'll be the best dollar you ever spend, and hopefully most of you will go, you know what, this is absolutely brilliant. Yeah, the information I'm sharing with you, I go to people's houses for about 2 or 3 hours. I charge 440 New Zealand dollars, which is about nearly 400 US dollars, and I share just a couple of hours of knowledge, and you're going to get way more than that. Generally all I share is how to be the pack leader and a bit of training. You're going to get all the videos, everything included, and I think it'll be the best dollar you ever spend. So get started with your training now. Before we forget, actually, you will be getting a PDF download of everything that we've gone through, all the notes today. So you can look forward to that as well.
Dan, what I think we'll do is we'll email that. The notes. Yep. There will be a replay of this webinar as well, and we'll send out an email after this, just where you can watch this again. And in that email, we will include the webinar notes from this show.
Yeah, excellent. So you'll get that PDF coming through on an email. So get started with your training today, because a lot of these issues, they don't sort themselves out. In fact, if you've got a young puppy, then that's the perfect time to stop the issues developing. They don't generally self-correct, they just get worse. And the great thing is, no matter what problem you're experiencing, you can work through it with me inside the site. You put that pack leader stuff in place, then do the training, watch the videos, and I'll have done it many times before. Check out that $1 trial. If you like it, stay on, but don't miss out on this opportunity to get it for that discounted offer. It's only available for those 48 hours. And yeah, discover what thousands of people have already discovered, that you two can have an amazing relationship with your dog or puppy. You can transform your dog or puppy. You can transform your life, and it doesn't cost a fortune. And it's actually pretty simple when you know how. So thanks for taking the time to join me here today. Hopefully I'll see you all inside the site very soon. I'm Doggy Dan, and as always, love your dog.
Dan,
And
can we just,
yeah.
well, you're just about to leave us. Can we, we've come up to the hour, and thank you so much for your valuable time. You've covered three incredible topics, including the whole dog psychology section. I hope everybody took a lot of sort of notes and are ready to try and put some of that into practice. I wonder would you mind staying around just for a couple of minutes and answer a few questions?
No, it's all good.
Yep. Yeah. So everybody, if you can stay with us, that'll be fantastic. Just a few more minutes. We'll let Dan address some questions. So, Dan, I see there is one already. My dog refuses to return the ball after she fetches it. I have tried treats, but she doesn't respond to them when she has a ball in her mouth. Now, that's a little off topic today, but
yeah. I mean, look, there is a video inside the site which covers all of that off. I mean, this is the thing about videos. Videos show you exactly how it's done. Me trying to explain it here on an audio, it is really hard. So what I'd say, rather than me going into it all the details, yep, there's at least two, if not more, videos on that specific thing: how to get a puppy to bring the ball back, how to get a dog to bring the ball back. However, here's where I think it gets really funny. Immediately, I'm already thinking, you know what? Your dog knows what you're asking. Your dog knows you're saying bring the ball back. They're just challenging you. They're having fun. That's why they stare at you, stare right in your eyes as you're saying bring it here, and they look at you and say, nah, why should I? Because it's undoubtedly, it'll come back. A lot of it will be to do with being the pack leader and winning that dog's respect. So they go, yes, you tell me what to do. So yeah. I've actually, Graham, I've just seen a question down here. Is it possible to train two dogs at once? Brilliant question, and the answer is absolutely yes. You know, I've got, like I said, I've got 3 dogs of my own. I've got a 4th one who's kind of trialing with us. We've got a 5th dog up at the next door neighbour's property who joins us quite often. So we've got 5 dogs, and they all need, you know, to be kept under control. You can train lots of dogs when you know how. It's not so much how many dogs you've got, it's the knowledge that you have. It's why, to be honest, I'm sure I'd love to have 10 or 20 dogs, and yeah, you can. They all work the same way essentially. It's getting that foundation in place that makes it all so much easier and so fun.
And there's another question from Susan. If you go down a little bit further, where she's asking, your 11-month-old, will it get better with age for the recall? It's excellent now, unless there's a walker, jogger, or, you know, some distraction. I guess I'm asking if training continues for another year.
11-month-old dogs can definitely get worse, to be quite honest. You know, a lot of dogs get worse between 12 months old and 18 months old. So, yep, it's not easy to say. It's not easy to say. They could get better, but then a lot of the smarter dogs start challenging you more at 12 months old than 11 months old, and then that's where it starts to unravel.
Right, so, and that probably ties into Lauren's question below that, which is, I can't get the handle on my 10-month-old poodle pulling me while walking. I feel beat. And does that really come back down again to the foundation, the pack leader problem?
Yeah. I mean, yes, absolutely. I think I did a podcast, or no, it was a webinar where we talked about walking bigger dogs on leash, and I remember saying, you know, you can't train a dog into submission if they think they're in charge. It just doesn't work. All of that training is almost wasted when the dog thinks that they're in charge. And you know, inside the video website, there are how many videos on walking the dog? There's so many tips and tricks. There's a lot of really cool information. And but not only that, I guarantee if your dog thinks that they're in charge inside the house, which most of them do, even though you don't realize it, when it comes to going for a walk, they will immediately step into that position of being the pack leader. And you can yank, pull on the collar, on the lead, use different devices. It doesn't work. You can try and bribe them to stay close using food, but it won't work if you haven't got that pack leader bit in place. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Dan. I think we'll we'll draw to an end. We can't take up everyone's time too much. So
Yeah.
yeah, again, just thank you for being on the show, and let me hand it back to you.
Brilliant. Well, look, that's me pretty much done, guys. I've loved doing this webinar. Thank you all for giving me your time. I think I'll just quickly say hello to you. I'll stop the screen sharing and we can say hi as I flick back to the presentation. I think it's a bit of a delay when I do this, but you can see me.
Yeah, we do have a big delay, unfortunately, but it
But
is good to
anyway,
see.
yeah, at least you can see I'm real and it's live. And anyway, let's get back to that presentation and finish on that final slide, and then you guys can all take a look. Thank you so much for any question. That's it. Okay, guys, take care. Thanks for giving us your time today, for joining me here today, and I'll see you inside the site. I am Doggy Dan, and as always, love your dog.